In this video, I will show you 9 ways you can visualize your data in NVivo 14 to come up with visually pleasing report. We are going to create 1 word clouds, 2 regular charts, 3 hierarchy charts, 4 tables that can be turned into bar charts, 5 project maps, 6 mind maps, 7 concept maps, 8 comparison diagrams, and 9 matrix coding query tables. My name is Bernard Mugo from Surviving Research, and let's get into it. The first way that you can visualize your data in NVivo is through the use of word clouds. Let's take an example. I have my data here. These are just different interview transcripts that I had previously imported into NVivo. And I want to formulate a word cloud of what a given participant in an interview said. So we have Michelle here. Let me double click on this interview transcript. And let's say I want to visualize what Michelle says, or the prominent words or the prominent themes or issues that emerge in Michelle's interview transcript. So you can see in the interview I have I representing the interviewer and M representing Michelle. If I was to try to make a word cloud, like if I would right click here and visualize and come to a word cloud, this is not an accurate representation of what Michelle says. Why do I say this? Because this includes the words that the interviewer and the interviewee said. When you are conducting interviews, you normally ask a question, then you get the answer. So in the transcripts, both the interviewer and the interviewee will be included if you try to visualize the data directly using a word cloud. How do we develop a word cloud only for Michelle? This is how we do it. Let's right click on the transcript from Michelle. Remember, we are on data files. The transcript for Michelle is this one. I right click and select autocode. Now NVivo will give me different options: identify themes, identify sentiment, speaker name, use the style or structure, use existing coding patterns. I want speaker name. I want to identify the different speaker names in the interview transcript. Then I click next. Now we already know we have I and M. So I and M. We want to see how NVivo identifies the two. You can see NVivo is able to identify I, which means the interviewer, that means the questions, and M, which means Michelle. That means only the data that Michelle provided during the interviews. And then we click on next, and we want to create this as a new, we can create as a new classification so that we do not get confused, and we call this Michelle input. It's just a word I'm creating, and then finish, and let's see what will happen. Now if you scroll down on NVivo, on the menu on the left you see case classifications, then you see Michelle input. And now we have the case for Michelle and we have the case for the interviewer. Remember, we are trying to create a word cloud as a way to visualize or as a way to see the major issues that Michelle talked about in the interview. So after we come to the Michelle input that we just created, or we come to the case classification Michelle input, we right click on Michelle, and then it's labeled 2 because I had another case for Michelle before. So we right click, and then now we can come to visualize and we can come to word cloud. This means that now we are going to have, or we are only going to consider the data for Michelle in developing the word cloud. And this is one of the ways that we develop clean word clouds in NVivo 14, and this is what we have here. So these are all the words that Michelle said. We can see she talked about being fashionable, having temper, having feelings, being emotional, and all these things. Now we can save this by pressing Ctrl+Shift+E, and then we save this under Michelle. So you can see this is the word cloud we just exported, representing the main ideas that Michelle provided during the interviews. We can see she talked about having a temper, being fashionable, being emotional, and all these things. Let's look at the second way to visualize in NVivo, which is to use regular charts. Now, when you are conducting your study or you are doing the interviews, you will normally collect some form of demographic data such as the gender, age, and maybe the level of education of your participants and other important details that are relevant to your given study. In my previous video, which I will link, I showed you how to import demographic data in NVivo and how you can rely or you can utilize the data in your study. Now, in this example, I have already imported the data, which normally is in my case classifications. So this is the data I'm talking about. I have age, gender, and school that each of my participants attend. So we can draw some regular charts using this data. For example, we want to see age of my participants. So we go to one of my participants and we right click and we click on visualize, then chart cases by attribute value. We click OK. Now you can see here I have an assigned, not applicable. Then I have 5 of the participants were 13 and 1 was 14. This unassigned means there is a participant that did not provide their details related to age. So what we do is we right click on the chart, we go to select data, then on the X attribute we go to attribute values and we say all attributes except unassigned and not applicable, and then we click OK. So we get a better table. From here we can see evidently 5 of the participants were 13 years while only 1 was 14. But we can also do some edits on the y-axis and on the x-axis. So let's go to edit labels, and instead of name, age and all these details, we can rename this. We delete here age of participants. Then instead of number of matching cases, we can call this number of participants. Ctrl+Shift+E. Then we can export this chart as age of participants, and if we look at our folder here we can check this. This is the chart with age of participants and number on the y-axis, so we can see clearly that 5 participants were 13 years while only 1 was 14 years. That's a way of visualizing your demographic data in NVivo using regular charts.
Let me interrupt this video for a minute and inform you of my services. My first type of service that I offer is consulting for anything related to qualitative data analysis using NVivo. You hop on a video call with me through Microsoft Teams or Zoom, and I will help you become a pro with NVivo in a few hours. I also provide a done-for-you data analysis service. I do the manual coding and provide a data analysis report with the necessary visuals. Some kind of visuals I do include tables, hierarchy charts, and the framework matrix. Email or message me right now. Details in the description.
The third way of visualizing data in NVivo is through the use of what we call hierarchy charts. Now, I have already conducted reflexive thematic analysis or thematic analysis on my data, and I have these themes. I have the theme of self-perception, I have the theme of other people's perception, and I have the theme of ethnicity. These are the 3 themes that I had. There is a way I could visualize my data in hierarchy charts. For example, if I open the main theme of self-perception, we have a sub-theme of negative, and we have different codes here. If I want to draw a hierarchy chart from this, I can right click on the sub-theme, then go down there to visualize, then I will subsequently select what we call hierarchy chart of codes. I select hierarchy chart of codes. On the visualize, you'll see it down there, hierarchy chart of codes, and I click OK. So we have the first option, which they call a tree map. So if you like the tree map, you can export this, and we can already see very clearly that the code of temperamento takes up or was very prevalent compared to other codes such as loud, lazy, and demanding. And then we can come to now the sunburst, which I like to use. We can click at the center and we can see the representation of different codes. We can see there was a lot of words that were coded or a lot of references that were made to the code of being temperamento, which takes up a very big area. So temperamento is very prevalent, or there are more references to temperamento compared to other codes. This doesn't mean that temperamento is a more important code than others. No, it means that there was more information related to the code of being temperamento. We can export this chart by pressing Ctrl+Shift+E, and let's look at that. And this is the hierarchy chart that we just made, and this is the third way of visualizing data in NVivo 14, which is through the use of hierarchy charts. Let's look at the fourth way of visualizing data in NVivo 14, which is through the use of tables that can subsequently be turned into even bar charts if you like. We still have our major 3 main themes here. We have ethnicity, self-perception, and other people's perception. So if I press Ctrl All on my keyboard and then I right click and go to export list and call these codes sample2, and let's save that. It's an Excel file. NVivo will export all our codes and all our themes as these this Excel file that you can see here. When we export the list, NVivo will export all our themes first, or the order that we coded our data. For example, you can see some numbers on my left here. You can see number 1, 2, 3. 1 are the major themes. 2 are the themes and the sub-themes and codes for some instances. For example, for the theme of ethnicity, these are the codes. For the theme, or for the major theme of self-perception, these are the sub-themes of negative, positive, and this is the data. The files are the number of participants that were coded to that given theme, or that were assigned to that given code or theme or sub-theme. References are the number of references made for each major theme, sub-theme, or code. Now, if you click on number 3, now you have the full coding structure. We can export this list in NVivo, which we can attach to the appendix of your dissertation or thesis, and also we can use this to draw tables that we will use in our report. For example, I have this data analysis report I made. After I did the analysis, I wrote the report and I shared this freely. So when you finish this video, and if you have not watched my other video, I'll link it at the end of this video, so you can go watch the whole process of reflexive thematic analysis and how we come up with all these themes and codes. We have like this table that I simply copy pasted from the Excel file that you have seen here, the Excel file that I just showed you. If you look at it here, I just copy pasted this data like ethnicity, self-perception, and other people's perception, and you can see that this is the data I copy pasted with files and references. Now, this kind of data, you can present it in your report as a way of visualizing as a table, which is this kind of a table. So you simply copy paste it from the list that you export from NVivo 14. So this is what I did here. But you can go even further and come up with what we call bar charts using Microsoft Word of such kind of information, and that's what I want to show you. Now, the information that we got from Excel file, for example, these are the major themes that I got or that I obtained from my study. I can copy this and I can go ahead, open a Word document, and I can copy the table there, and then I can delete this column and I can correct any mistakes, then put this in bold, and I can use this table as a way to visualize data in my data analysis report. So I want to save this. Let's save this as bar chart. This is one of the ways you can use to visualize your data when you are presenting your findings. Now, from this table, we can develop a bar chart using Word. So you go to Insert, then go to Charts area, then go to Bar Chart and click OK. You can see that we have a pop-up here, which is an Excel file that will control the information that we see, or the information that we will have on this chart here. And we are going to use the data that we just exported. So we can see from the data, we only have 3 categories, which is ethnicity, self-perception, and other people's perception. I can copy that and highlight these 3 areas and paste. Then in the series, I can have, for example, instead of having files here, I like putting this as number of participants to make it easier for anyone reading my report to understand what these numbers mean. And I like calling this one number of references. Let me copy the number of references and paste it there, and number of participants and paste it there. Now, I want to copy this data. We highlight the 3 areas, we copy, and I want to copy this data. Again, we highlight the 3 areas. There you have it. And you can see we just developed a very, very good chart from the data we have here. And instead of having chart title, we can call this themes. So you can see this is a chart we just formulated or we just developed from our table. That's another way that we can visualize our data in NVivo, which is through the use of charts. And after you get your chart, you can decide to delete your table because they both represent the same information. Fifth way of visualizing data in NVivo is through the use of project maps. What are project maps? Project maps are a way, if you go to NVivo and you have your, I'm on codes and I have my 3 major themes here. I have self-perception, other people's perception, and ethnicity. And I want to explore, go to or click on the explore on the menu, and then go to maps and create or click on project map. Okay, there are 3 options. If we go back, we have project map, mind map, concept map. We're going to use all the 3 options, but let's start with the project map. And I want to call this project map ethnicity because I want it to represent the theme of ethnicity, and I click OK. Now I want to go to the theme, one of my major themes of ethnicity, and I drag and drop the theme there. So you can see NVivo automatically draws ethnicity as a circle, and we want to map this project. Then I click on the plus sign, and then I highlight all the codes by shift and the down arrow. Then I drag and drop all the codes in there. So we can see the diagram is not well arranged. If you click on the diagram and go to this area where you see the layout, you can see the different layouts that NVivo 14 gives us. Layered, directed graph, hierarchical, circular, directed. I like hierarchical. And you can see this is an example of a project map that we get in NVivo. So ethnicity, under the major theme of ethnicity, we have different codes which include white ethnicity, Pakistani ethnicity, Indian ethnicity, English ethnicity, and British ethnicity. If you press Ctrl Shift and E, and you can save this ethnicity as a project map, which you can include in your data presentation report. Here we have it. So this is ethnicity, and these are the different codes under ethnicity. That's another way of visualizing data in NVivo. Let's look at the 6th way of visualizing information or data in NVivo, which is through the use of mind maps. Again, I'm on codes, and these are my major themes that I had here. If I go to explore, I go to maps. You can see maps here. I click on it, then I go to mind map, and let's say I want to make a mind map of this other people's perception. I can open this and copy paste. So I go to mind map and call this other people's perception and click OK, and NVivo will start to draw our mind map. So we have the first circle here. Let me just Ctrl V, press Ctrl V on my computer, because that's the way I just copy pasted the theme other people's perception. And then under this, we can see we have positive and negative. So I'll go to this area and refer to this. It's a child idea under other people's perception. If you want to have a hierarchy, you click on child idea. If you want ideas on the same level, you click on sibling idea. So sibling idea is ideas on the same level. Child idea is an idea below another major idea. So other people's perception, I want positive and negative as child idea. So I click child once and child twice. So I will also copy paste this, and I press Ctrl V. I double click Ctrl V. Then we have positive. Then I can also copy paste the sub theme negative. Ctrl V. So we have positive. Other people's perception can either be positive or negative. Under positive and negative, we can also have other ideas. Now, if you look at this area on your left on the mind map, you can see a given tool that we can use to format our mind map having a hierarchy. You can see right now it says, it just shows different like side by side way of visualizing. If you go down on the arrow, you can see different options. I like this one, which they call the top-down approach. So other people's perception, you can see positive, negative. Now under positive, you have trendy and fashionable and quiet. So those are the 2 codes under the sub-theme of positive. So under positive, again, I want two child ideas under positive, and under negative, I want 3 child ideas. As you can see, I have 3 codes here. So I click on negative 1, I click on negative again 2, and I click on negative again 3. So this is how we represent this. This is a major theme, these are sub-themes on this level, and these are codes on the lower level. And let's fill everything up. You can type or you can copy paste like me. So I double click on the box, I press Ctrl V, and I paste trendy and fashionable. So that's how we draw a mind map in NVivo. We use these tools called child idea, sibling idea. Sibling is on the same level, of course. Child is below it. Floating idea is an idea that is not attached to your mind map. We can export this by pressing Ctrl Shift E and other people's perception and save. And I want to show you what we just exported in our folder, which is this, other people's perception. This is another approach to visualize data in NVivo 14 through the use of a mind map. Let's look at the seventh way of visualizing data in NVivo, which is through the use of concept maps. I'm on codes and I develop these major themes including ethnicity, self-perception, and other people's perception. If we click on explore and go to maps and go to concept map, I just want to represent the connection between the different themes using a concept map, right? Like, are they connected or how are they connected, right? So I can use this, which we call a concept map. For example, I can start with a circle and type in ethnicity in there. That's one of my major themes, ethnicity, right? Then I want to show how this theme is related to the other themes, or I want to draw a kind of a thematic map, right? So I can come up with another shape to show a different theme, which is other people's perception, and let's place it there. And then I can come up with another shape, which is like an oval shape, showing a different theme or a different major theme, which is self-perception, right? And then I can use these tools. We can see I have a pointer, connector, and we can add other project items. I want to use a connector to show like a connection between these three themes. So ethnicity, a person can be of a certain ethnicity and they will have a self-perception, a way that they perceive themselves, which is self-perception, and a way that other people view them, which is other people's perception. So that's just an example of how you can use NVivo to show the link or the relationship between different ideas or different themes, and even to develop thematic maps in NVivo 14. Another way to visualize your data in NVivo is to use comparison diagrams to compare code. Now, if we go to explore and we click on diagrams, you can see like we have compare files, compare code, compare cases. So if I go to compare files and I want maybe to compare the different files, I click two items there and I click OK. NVivo allows us only to compare 2 items at a time. So let's see what will happen. So you can see there is this diagram that NVivo has just developed. You can see like we have Michelle and Seipan, the 2 files, the different codes that were made under them. You can see it's a very large diagram, but let me zoom in for you to see clearly. You can see, for example, both Michelle and Seipan talked about ethnicity. They talked about negative perceptions, positive perceptions. At the center are the things that both of them talked about, and you can see they are majorly themes. And then on the opposite side, you can see the different codes that each of the participants talked about. So you can use such a comparison diagram to determine did 2 participants speak about the same things, or were similar codes associated with the 2 participants. So that's how you come up with a comparison diagram, which is another way to visualize your data in NVivo. The final way you can use to visualize your data in NVivo is through the use of matrix coding query tables. Now, if we go to explore and click on the matrix coding query on the menu button, and you can see a plus sign here, this is rows, and you can see the word columns here. So in this area we have columns, here we have rows. So what we want to put in our rows is the number of participants or the participants that we have. So I click open here, I go to Cantel School and I click OK, and I have added those 2 participants. I want to add all of them. Let me just click OK and add all of them. Then I select items, and on the columns you want to add, maybe I want to represent self-perception, both positive and negative. Okay, so I click OK. Then I go to this button called run query and I run the query, and you can see the different ways or the different perceptions or the different level of coding, or we can see this is the coding references for each major theme and sub theme. Now I normally like clicking on the column percentage, which represents the amount of references attributed to every participant. What do I mean? For example, Michelle provided the most information related to self-perception, 34%, 0.9%. Seipan was the second, provided 20.23%, and then Karen 15.98, Kashif 10.7, and David 18.8. So David provided more information than Karen and Kashif. In thematic analysis, we do not really worry about such kind of like the percentage of references attributed to a participant. No, we do not really deal with it quantitatively, but maybe you can use this data in your appendix, or if you are using another approach to coding your data which is not reflexive thematic analysis. So again, this table, you can give it a good color. I right click, I go to cell shading and green and yellow, and you can see we have a very good matrix coding table. And you can export this table by clicking Ctrl+Shift+E, and then let's call this sample 3 because I had so many. And if I go to my folder of matrix coding sample 3, you can see it exports in Excel, and this is the table that we just exported. And sometimes you can add the word total here to just show people that you are reading it from the top going down, and put 100% here, 100% going all that way. That's the final way of visualizing your data in NVivo, which is coming up with a matrix coding query table to represent the number of words coded to each participant in a given major theme or sub-theme. So those are the 9 different ways you can visualize your data in NVivo 14. Remember, I provide done-for-you data analysis services and consulting services for any problem or challenge related to NVivo. So check the link and email in the description and talk to me right away. Thank you.